Hi, my name is Mike Grigsby, and I'm an instructor for the Fearless Falling Exercise Program. It's a program to help prevent falls, but it's unique in that we also teach you how to actually fall down as safely as possible. My background is I'm an electronic design engineer and designed biomedical equipment for about 25 years. And I'm also a martial artist. And I first learned how to fall when I was studying judo when I was just in high school. Over the years, I studied other arts, aikido, karate, and kung fu. And I've been teaching as a coach at The Ohio State University for over 30 years in their Shuaijiao Kung Fu Club. This is a style of kung fu that judo and jiu-jitsu really came from, so there's a huge emphasis on throwing. And it's also based on the principles of Tai Chi, of softness and movement. So in an art like this, one of the very first things you have to learn is how to fall properly. And over my life, I've had like a dozen situations that I had serious falls and would use my falling techniques and never really thought about it. But about 13 years ago, my stepdad went on a vacation and came back, felt like he had the flu a little bit, went to his doctor and was in a waiting room and apparently felt like he was going to get sick, walked to the side, slipped, passed out, fell, broke his neck. He actually died of a fall in his own doctor's office. And that really kind of got to me and kind of planted the seed that other people need to learn how to fall besides just martial artists. Several years after that, a friend had a fall in her kitchen, and it was the classic step on a water spot and the foot went out and she threw her hand back. She landed hard on that hand and broke her wrist badly. Well, they did surgery, put in plates and screws, and within 3 months, her wrist was good as new. Unfortunately, she got very phobic. She lived alone. She used to love to cook, but now every time she went in the kitchen, she was afraid she was going to fall again. So I said, Chris, come on, I'll teach you how to fall. I can help get rid of this fear of falling. She was my first student. Now, since then, I established the Fearless Falling classes. I've taught hundreds of seniors how to fall and had dozens of them who've actually used these falling techniques out on the street, and some of them have avoided serious injury. Some of them have probably saved their lives by using the techniques. So this is a situation where, sort of like swimming, a little learning can be a good thing, because just knowing a little bit about what to do can help you. So, falling, it's an epidemic. Maybe not as scary as COVID right now, but we've lost about 180,000 people have died from COVID, mostly older folks. Every year, about 300,000 of us older folks break their hips. And of those 300,000 that break a hip and go through the hospital process, within a year, 60,000 of them are dead, just from complications of having serious hospital stay. On top of that, some 30,000 just die immediately from the effects of a fall. So that's 60,000, that's not even counted in the stats. Now, everyone says it's an epidemic of falling for old people. Well, it's the baby boomers. We're moving through society and we've got a big lump, and so yes, there are more older folks falling. But everybody falls. Gravity's everywhere. Even young people fall more often than old people. They've actually done studies on this. The thing is, when you're young, your bones are stronger, your muscles are stronger, you can catch yourself a little bit better, and even if you do fall and get injured, rarely do you go to the hospital. You just scrape something up, patch yourself up, and move on. But when you get to be my age, I'm almost 70, things get serious. You fall down, things break. Our bones are thinner, our muscles are a little bit weaker. So how do you protect yourself? Well, there's a whole raft of things you can do to improve yourself, to strengthen your muscles, improve your mental outlook. And there are medical things you can watch, like your drugs and all of this. There's a very good site set up by the state of Ohio called SteadyU. You can link to it on my site, fearlessfalling.com, has a big link to this, and it has a whole lot of advice on how to prevent falls from the medical angle of it. I'm more on the physical exercise side of it, and one of the things you have to realize about falls is that the main reason we fall is a loss of balance. They categorize falls as slips, where you slip your foot out, trips, where you stumble over something, tumbles, where you're like sitting to go in a chair or something and you miss and go down, stumbles, and a stumble, I always say, that's what happens when you trip and then you try and recover. So your stumble is the way of not going down. And the last one is crumples, of the 5 types. A crumple means you just collapse. You just pass out. That's the only one where you really can't save yourself with some sort of a technique. And even that, if you feel faint, there are things you can do right away. One of the things I always tell my students is just sit down. You feel yourself getting faint? Just sit down. People always talk, my first student, in fact, when she said, well, I threw out my wrist in my kitchen because I didn't want to land on my butt. And I said, that's what it's for. Your gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in your body. That's where we want to land if we fall. Not on the hip. People get confused when I say just sit down. You don't sit on your hip. You want to sit on your butt and behind that. So how do you avoid falling completely? Balance. Pay attention. Pay attention and you won't trip as much or slip as much. But balance is key. We don't think about it, but in normal walking, we actually deliberately off-balance ourselves, reach out, and fall on the forward foot. I always tease my students by saying, how many times did you fall today? And they say, oh, none. And I say, hundreds. Because the normal way of walking is actually you go forward, you fall, and you catch. You reach forward, fall, and you catch yourself. We've been doing it since we were 2.5 years old. It's so automatic we don't even think about it until you step forward and you hit a slippery spot. And then you can't unfall. You can't go back. So there are ways to avoid that situation. Normal walking we're always going to do, but when things look slippery or dangerous, we shift into something different, something I call Tai Chi walking. One of the reasons that Tai Chi movement looks so graceful as people glide around and do all their movements is because their balance is so good, and when they step in Tai Chi, you never go like this. It's always smoothly put the foot out, it touches, and then you pour the weight into the foot as you do the movement. Every step is always completely balanced. So, how do you learn to do Tai Chi walking? Take Tai Chi. Go to a Tai Chi class. But I'll give you a little snap lesson here on how to learn how to do Tai Chi walking. First, all exercise is potentially hazardous. All exercise. So always check with your doctor if you're starting a new exercise program. These things are light and easy, but if you have balance problems and really weak legs, whenever you're practicing your balance, always make sure you've got a chair or a table, something you can rest your hand on or have available to catch yourself. So that said, the first thing we're going to do is spread your feet a little more than shoulder width, bend your knees. We all tend to stand around with our knees locked out. You want to bend the knees and get them down. So if you bend them right away, you'll start to feel it in your leg muscles. There's muscles there. You start to feel those muscles. Now just slowly glide over so all the weight's on one leg, almost all the weight's there. Then back to the center. Now over to the other side. And the key here is slowly. In the middle, both knees are bent. As you go back and forth, you're not going up and down. Keep your body straight. In Tai Chi, we always imagine we're hanging from a thread at the top of your head. So your spine's straight, glide back, and then forth. When you start out, do this at least 10 times, eventually work up to about 20 times. So this is called weight shifting. You just pour the weight into one leg, and then you pour the weight into the other leg. It's like water sloshing back and forth. Next, we go into what in martial arts is called a front type stance, a front stance. Front legs bent, back legs straighter. So in this same stance, you can go forward, the knee goes over the foot, and then glide backwards. So the back leg's bent, front knee is almost straight. Forward and back. Forward. Again, do this about 10 times. Later on, do it about 20 times. In this one, you've got to do on both legs. So one forward, one back. What this teaches you to do is to be aware of the weight shifting and movement of your body. And also, this is a leg exercise. It's surprising, doing this back and forth slowly, this will wear you out. So those are the basic weight shifting exercises. Now we get to the balance exercise. There are so many balance exercises, even for one leg. You can do all these different techniques back and forth. I've seen some programs where it's like an hour of balance exercises. Boring. Tai Chi is a little more fun. I teach people one crucial balance exercise. A single leg balance. I call it the front foot float. To do that, put your right leg back a little bit, left foot out in front, just a little bit. Now to do this, you have to be able to have all your weight on one leg. So again, make sure you have your hand on a table or a counter or the back of a solid chair before you try this, if you've never done it. All the weight's on the back leg. If you're not holding something, you can put your hands out. And then very slowly, lift the other leg off the floor. Just half an inch. Now right away, you may be able to see my leg's starting to shake a little bit. Even being in good condition, it's trembling because it's fighting to rebalance me and keep me balanced the whole time. Then put the foot back down. When you do this, people are kind of shocked at A, how hard it is to actually just balance on one leg, and how tired this back leg gets. This front leg should be almost relaxed, just floating. Okay, and back. Now the other foot. Left foot back, other foot out, slightly in front. When you get better, you can put it out farther, but just a little in front's fine. Bend the back leg, lift off. One of the important things is don't hold it up here. Just let it float just off the ground. And when you start to lose your balance, because the object is to work so hard, you'll start to lose your balance, feet go down. Is one of the big rules is when you start to lose your balance, feet go down. Our instincts are the opposite. The startle reflex, have you ever watched a little child fall? They trip and they go, like that. I call it the baby arch, because they kind of arch back and their arms go out. This is part of our normal startle response. We stiffen up, starting with the jaw, and we try and fly away. We're just going to freeze the world, but the world won't freeze. So when you start to lose your balance doing this, the instinct is to kind of go and counterbalance. Don't do that. I always tell my students, no, don't do the Rockettes move. You don't want to be doing any high kicks. As soon as you lose your balance at any point, bend the knees, sink down. Always think sink. The closer you are to the ground, the safer you are. So now we go to the full Monty. We've done the front leg float. Standing here, bend the knees, lift one leg. And since you can balance, you can put it out and just put it down. Now, flow the weight forward into that leg. More weight, more weight. The back leg's empty, has no weight. Bring it in, and you can touch just for a second. Reach out, balanced. Put it down. Flow the weight in. One more. In. Oh, and I always tell my students, and you have to do this backwards. So reach back with your toe. Flow the weight back. Get all the weight on that back leg until you can lift the front foot. Bring it in. Reach back. And bring it in. So, when you're out walking, just gallivanting around, and you suddenly see that, well, we are getting into black ice times. Get those hedges, you get frost, you get the frosty sidewalk that doesn't look like snow, but it's slippery. When you see that, be aware and see that, you suddenly, I think I'll shift to Tai Chi walking. Now, the reason we don't Tai Chi walk all the time is it's exhausting. It takes a lot of energy. When we do a normal step like this, we get 60% of our energy back just by using our momentum. Tai Chi walking, you hardly get any energy back. You're using all the energy from your legs, so your legs have to be a little stronger to even do it. But once you can do it, if you're out walking anytime, you need to walk more carefully, you can shift to the Tai Chi walking. And one quick note, don't shuffle. A lot of people tend to bend over and they take little steps because they've been told little steps are safer. The problem is you start going like this, your head's looking over past your feet. In the martial arts, we always say where the head goes, the body follows. So if I'm bent over like this and I catch my foot on anything, right down. So stay straight, stay aware, and use your Tai Chi walking. But despite all of this, you may suddenly slip on something and fall. So now we'll talk about the next part, how to protect yourself when you actually fall down.